Thank you.
Do you also hear me? Thank you.
This new service called a space have some difficulties, so we have to bear sometimes with this problem. So excuse us.
Yeah, space is experimental. Unfortunately, when I joined a few minutes ago, upon becoming the speaker, the Twitter app crashed, so I had to completely reboot my phone in order to be able to join the talk again. So in advance, we apologize if these kind of technical problems happen, and we are going to recreate the room. Sometimes even the host Twitter app is going to crash, so everyone will be kicked out of the space. We are going to recreate the space, and please join again if this happens.
I see more people are coming. I would like to welcome them.
So, Sarah, what's the topic of tonight's talk, discussion? Maybe you could explain to the people who are here, and we wait until more people join, then we'll start the serious talk.
Sure. Well, this evening, we will going to focus on exposing the IR regime propaganda. We will talk a little bit more about different tools that the regime is using for years, for decades, to silence the true voice of Iranian people inside the country. And basically, we would like to talk about the propaganda machine. And beside that, we would like to focus more on the campaign of No to Islamic regime in Iran. And the campaign, which is ongoing and working hardly, we would like to put more effort and introduce it more to the world.
Thank you for the explanation. Ardeshir, may I ask you something? Could you please add the hashtag NAB Jumhuri Islami to the subject of the space?
Sure. Should I do it in Persian?
Yes. In front of it, add NAB Jumhuri Islami. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So in the meanwhile, I would like to ask the audience, the people who are here, if you would like to speak or have something in advance to say, we would like to hear it, because Sarah briefly explained what we are going to discuss tonight, but we would like to also hear from you. Ardeshir, you could make anyone a speaker here. They are okay.
Yeah, sure. Give me your requests and I will make you the speaker.
Yeah, at this moment, because we are a limited number of people in this room, so anybody who would like to speak, please request for microphone.
So if there's not anyone, maybe we could start, because I believe already 10 minutes has passed, so we could start. If everyone agrees, you could send a 100% emoji. 3 people? Shall we start or we should wait? Okay, Sarah, I guess we can start now, because more people, they sent the 100% emoji. So I think you can go ahead and start.
Okay, let's officially begin this space. My name is Sarah, and tonight I would like to bold some items related to the propaganda of the regime outside. So we picked 5 titles. I know this topic is very wide. We cannot talk about every single item and every single details right here tonight because it's going to be boring. So we will divide the subjects. We picked only 4 or 5 topics for this evening, and we will do the rest for the other spaces in the next coming weeks. So the first topic or the first item related to the propaganda of the regime that we are going to talk about is that how the regime in Iran infiltrated into different international organizations, institutions, political administrations, and academia in the form of journalists, scientists, human rights activists, or women's rights activists. I would like to hear more your opinion, your point of view about this item.
We would like to pass the microphone around between the audience. If you have any point of view you want to share with us, you can go ahead right now and request the microphone.
I see that Mr. Tehrani is in the speaker and Mr. Saman. Which one of you would like to talk first?
Hi everyone, I'm Mehdi Tehrani from London. I'm really pleased finally there is a platform where everyone come together and speak English as well as Farsi. I'm so happy with that. And just before we start, I would just like to let you know I will try my best to get my point across. I've got 3 questions from your audience, guys. I just found out what your opinion actually. The first question is, do you think the media based in the UK are from the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran? And what the motive, and are they really with the people of Iran? And if otherwise, how can we know for the certain the journalists here are not crap organization working alongside with the Iranian regime? And I will be listening to your opinion in the audience to the answer as much the question as possible. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your question. Anybody would like to answer or make a comment? Please go ahead. Mr. Sirwan Mansouri, would you like to speak about this topic?
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for giving me mic. First of all, I want to emphasize on the descriptive role of Iran in the Middle East, interfering in the other countries' affairs, like Arab countries. And
sorry, may I interrupt you? We have like a structure for tonight's discussion. Sarah asked the question, but she did not receive any answer. We consider your question, Mr. Mansouri, and also Mr. Tehrani. We write it down, but please, for the best of all of us, stay to the structure. So I guess maybe Sarah repeat again her question.
No, that's fine, Mr. Mamdouh.
Yeah, because we want to, stay focused on the topic. Yeah, it's and in the end we have a talk for like 60 minutes, and then at the end we have a Q&A window for 30 minutes.
I can talk.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
It's all right. Let me talk, actually.
Yeah.
Clear.
It's possible to repeat the question again. I want to speak on the
Sarah, could you go ahead again and ask? And Mr. Tehrani and Mr. Mansouri.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they will answer. Yeah.
I don't have any answering for this question. That's why I just try to get my point, actually. Don't worry. I'm listening to the other audience. I just listen right now. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Tehrani. Thank you. We will come back to you and we'll answer to your question. Thank you so much. Okay, I will repeat the first item we are going to talk about again. We would like to discuss how the regime in Iran infiltrated into different international organizations, institutions, political administrations, and academia in the form of journalists, scientists, human rights activists, and women's rights activists. Mr. Mansouri, if you would like to answer this question, or you have any comment about that or any other point of view, please share it with us. or even Mr. Tehrani.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to speak on your question. I want to talk to the Islamic Republic role in interfering with the affairs in the Middle East, but I want to emphasize on its role in media. For example, as you know, the main role of the Iran's propaganda through the media is related to Mr. Javad Zarif, the Foreign Minister of Iran, as you know, because he has established some organizations inside the United States. For example, we can point out the NIAC organization, which is formally and normally reflects the Sons of the Islamic Republic inside the United States. So when we want to mention the different ways of propaganda of the Islamic Republic, we should merely mention the authorities of the Islamic Republic, because they hire some journalists. For example, inside the United States, all of them are well-known people. I don't want to mention their names, but I think I'm sure you know all of them. They spread the Islamic propaganda in the United States, and for example, newspapers, some famous newspapers, and they deny the realities inside Iran, the killings of the people on the streets, protesters, or the executing of the people, or prisoning, beating them, and so other kinds of the Islamic cruelty inside Iran. I think we should battling and we should fighting this first step of the Islamic propaganda of Iran through the journalists inside the United States and in Europe. I think this is the most important thing that we should pay attention to. I will refer to. I will come back to you in the next, but I prefer other guests to speak, and I speak after, and I have some comments, other comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mansouri, because we want to stay focused on the topic, and also we are running out of time because the time is limited. So we are moving to the other topic. But as I mentioned earlier, at the end of the discussion, there will be a 30-minute window for questions and answers. There you could ask your questions, and it's basically free talk, and everyone could ask questions or answer or give answer to those questions. The other topic I'm going to discuss is, as we know, the Islamic Republic of Iran, they exploit tools such as visual effects technology in order to manipulate photos or videos in order to represent the reality in a different way as their propaganda tool. For example, one such a case I could think of was the funeral of Qasem Soleimani. As you remember, they created fake images, fake videos in order to tell the world Iranians consider him a hero. It was, of course, a false narrative. But Iranians, how did they counter the Islamic regime's propaganda? They started two Twitter storms, one using the hashtag thanks protest for Soleimani, and the other one was Iranians detest Soleimani. In those Twitter storms, in each one of those, at least 40,000 Iranians and Americans participated in those hashtags, and they became trending worldwide. I would like to ask for your opinion, or if you know any other notable case of manipulation using technology or false propaganda. And also, I would like to ask for your opinion. How do you think we could counter this kind of propaganda, especially using social media? I would like to pass the microphone to the listeners, especially people from inside Iran. Thank you. You could go ahead, Mr. Salman.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to here with you. Actually, it's true that right now we are focusing on the regime propaganda at this time. But I'd like to remember everybody, the propaganda was started actually during the war between Iran and Iraq. So this propaganda, it is not just only in outside. Actually, the regime use a lot of media, different kind of media, like, for example,
I think your voice doesn't clear,
documentary,
Mr. Salman. Can you?
Sorry?
We can't hear you appropriate.
I don't know. It's now it's better.
We can't hear you properly. Actually, I don't know. It's your microphone. It doesn't work properly. That's why.
Sorry?
The quality of your voice wasn't good. Can you please speak more?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know what can I do, but this is just the only thing that I can shout, that's more loudly.
Now it's perfect. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. I was saying that the propaganda actually started during the war between Iran and Iraq in the 80s, and they tried to use the video makers, the documentaries, the things to show that what is the right and what is the wrong thing, and obviously now in our time they use a kind of medias, kind of social medias, different type of the journalists or the people who are working for them. For example, I can remember about the protests at the November 2019. I can say their agents, this is the word that I can, they use their agent to change the things, to show the things to other people, to the world, that the Iranian protesters, they are the people like the violence, they use the very tough things. So I think always the regime, as the Mamadou says, they use the medias, they use the social medias for changing and showing the people the wrong side. I think we, as the people of Iran, we must show to the world what is the right side of those things happen in Iran. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Salman. You actually point a very, very important point. Thank you to remind us to talk about it. Okay, among the listeners, I can see Mrs. Ghazaleh Sharmahd and Mrs. Bita. I would like to invite them to come and join us into as speakers if they would like to join the discussion. Ardeshir, could you please send invitation to these ladies?
So I move to audience for the people that they can come here and talk.
Thank you so much, Salman.
I'm sorry, I would like to shortly interrupt. Hello and welcome. I've sent invites to Ghazal and Baltan and also Bita. Have you received my invitations? If you've received it, please send us 100 emoji so we know if you've received it.
I can see
and
Ghazal
if you haven't,
is
maybe
speaker now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, so the other two guests, if you could let us know. I mean, a fist if you haven't received it, and 100 if you've received it.
Thank you, Ardeshir. I would like to welcome Ghazaleh, and we are so happy to have you here. We know that your father is in a very critical situation right now, even though the topic is not related to your father's case. But I would like here from you briefly talk about your father's case. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah John. About my father's case, to sum it up in a very short time, he has been a political dissident in America for over 10 years. Last year, during the pandemic, he was overseas for his work. He's a computer engineer. He was traveling through India and got a flight overlay in Dubai, where he was kidnapped by the Islamic regime and taken to Iran. That was in August 2020. And since then, he's been kept hostage in Iran, and we don't know where he is exactly and how he's doing. He is only allowed to call us maybe once a month for a few minutes, which are all supervised calls. And he does not have a lawyer. He is in great risk for execution at this point, and his health is at risk too, because he has previous health concerns such as Parkinson's disease, heart disease, and diabetes. And the last time he was calling was about a month ago, when he did not sound very well. He was coughing very heavily. And as you know, COVID is on the rise in Iran again. So we're very worried that he might have caught COVID as well.
I'm sorry to hear this situation from you, and I really hope that something happened and he can be released as soon as possible. But I would like to ask you a question. I actually want to somehow relate your father's case to our topic. Do you think any kind of propaganda is involved in your father's case or not?
Oh, definitely. My father's case involves very, very heavy and propaganda against him, and actually against the group that he was supporting as well, which is Tondar or Anjuman Padashahi. The propaganda started about 10 years ago, when my father was still anonymously helping the movement, which was called Anjuman Padashahi, with a website, because he's a engineer. He built a website for them, and that website was on his server, on his business server. And at that time, he was still unknown. Through some security mischief, the name of the server got exposed, and the name of the server included his name, and the regime found out that it was on his name. And since then, which is more than 10 years ago, propaganda, threats, and everything started. The first thing that they did was publish his birth certificate on national TV in Iran, stating that he is an enemy number one of the state, stating that he is involved with a terrorist group, which they make a lot of propaganda also against the dissident group Tondar, and that they're terrorists. And since then, the propaganda has started. The last things that they've been doing throughout the years is they made a television show, a sitcom called Khane Am, or Safe House in English. And they showed him again as a CIA agent, as an FBI agent, as involved with Mossad, as a spy involved with all kinds of foreign powers, as a ringleader of a terrorist group. That is how they describe him, which all of these are, of course, not true. And they created a 20-minute long propaganda TV show that aired last year as well, showing him and two other dissidents on it, and how the intelligence was able to capture them. They call it a complex operation, where they capture them, which is actually kidnapping of a foreign citizen. And those are the main ways in which they spread propaganda against my dad, instead of acknowledging what the truth is, that he has been a speaker over here, that he has developed a website, that he has given power to the movement in Iran and spread all of their news here. Their propaganda or their image that they want to create of my dad is a terrorist ringleader, is a terrorist group, is to make him look guilty and to provide a legal ground to be able to execute him and silence the voice that he has given to the people.
Thank you very much, Ghazal-Jan, for explaining everything. I would like to take the opportunity to welcome Ms. Liza Dakhtari, and I would like to pass the microphone to her.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me and including me in this very important discussion on exposing the regime in Iran, using whatever tools that we do have here outside, and giving a voice to those inside Iran who are condemning the regime and really sacrificing their lives every single day fighting this regime. I'm sorry, I just joined. I just got the link, so I don't know what was said already, but I'm so enthused by the spaces and Clubhouse and so many of the groups of opposition, or those who support the opposition, or journalists, or just curious individuals who are really coming together to have these discussions, whether they're in Farsi or in English, to empower people. You don't need to be a journalist. You don't need to be in Washington. You don't need to have 50,000 followers in order to make your voice heard or to be a part of the discussion. And I think that that's what's wonderful. I also think it's great that the members of the opposition are learning new and creative ways to spread their message, to combat the propaganda that is going on in the West. A great example of that could be the billboard that went up in Midtown Manhattan yesterday. We just did an article about it at the Foreign Desk. You can read about the founder of the project, the point that they're trying to make, and their message is very clear. The people in Iran just want a normal life. And I think, the Nada Jomhuri Islami, the No to the IRI campaign is wonderful because it tells the world very simply what the Iranians don't want. But I think as a follow-up, it's wonderful to tell the stories of the Iranian people and what they do want, what they are after, what kind of freedoms they are lacking and need, and what we can do for them, what kind of echo or what kind of support or advocacy we can provide to make their voices heard, and to really be there for them as a complete support system, both behind the scenes and in front. I thank you all for including me in this discussion, and I hope we can move forward together to do something meaningful beyond this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I have to apologize because of the delay in sending you the link of this space. So for those who just joined us, I would like to introduce again the items that we are going to talk about in this evening, about exposing the tools that the regime in Iran use in order to spread the propaganda. One of the ways is infiltrating into the different international organization, institution, political administration, and academia in the form of journalists, scientists, human rights activists, and women rights activists. Another point is that the regime in Iran using visual effects technology in order to manipulate the photos and videos. One of the example was the funeral of Qasem Soleimani that you saw. What they did to the reports, what they did to the videos to basically sell the propaganda to the world. So I would like to give the microphone to Bita, because she's waiting here as a speaker. If you have any comment related to this topic, we would like to hear. Bita, can you hear us?
If you could hear us, please send a 100% emoji.
All right. I think Beta has to leave the space and rejoin. Okay. Meanwhile, I would like to talk to Lisa. Because recently I've seen a very nice interview that you had with Mr. Cameron Khansarinia, specifically about this propaganda and the tools, and I really enjoyed it. So I wish that Mr. Cameron Khansarinia was here tonight with us to explain more about it. So can I ask you to briefly talk about those important items that you discussed with him in that session?
Sure. This was, I invited Cameron to come on because he is one of many supporters and advocates of this campaign. He is working in Washington, D.C. He is an Iranian American. And I think he is a wonderful advocate because he understands the workings of Washington, D.C. He also understands the media. He understands the Iranian people and their needs. And we had a wonderful discussion about what the people of Iran want, what they're saying, and how people of very, very different backgrounds are coming together with one simple message. And, we have always said that for 42 years, the Iranian people have not been able to unite. They've not been able to organize. They have not been able to have one clear message. And for that reason, the regime has won the propaganda war against the opposition. What is the opposition? How is it defined? What's the face of the opposition? And there's an evolution of this, right? In 2009, the opposition in Iran, for the first time, I should say, in modern history, was able to introduce itself to the world and say, "Look at us. We are modern. We are different. We want to have an iPad. We want to have freedom. We want to be able to be on Twitter and Instagram, just like our dictators that are ruling us. We want to have freedom, basic freedom." And the world, for the first time, understood that Iranians are not riding camels and they're not backwards, and that they're very different from their government. And that was a very wonderful thing. But that opportunity was lost, and the regime won that as well. And we started, the nuclear talks, and then the mainstream media, whether in the United States or popular international platforms, whether in Europe or the West, they picked up on the JCPOA as being the right way forward for the Iranian people. And that's because of the propaganda machine in this country that said sanctions are bad for people, therefore the deal is good for people in Iran because it will remove the economic pressures. And this Nafta Jomhuriya Islami, the No to the IR campaign, is refuting that. And they're saying we, again, are very different. It's not about a contested election like it was in 2009. It's not over oil prices. It's not over egg prices. Each time there's a protest in Iran, the detractors, the ones that want to take our eyes off of the main point, will always say it's a specific protest. But now this hashtag, this campaign unites everyone under one main umbrella. And that umbrella is to say we don't want the entire system. We're not going to vote. We're not going to tell you, one is moderate and one is not. That's another very popular propaganda piece where Rouhani is great. He's not like the rest of them. And this campaign says, look, they're all bad. Ask a person point blank, are you for or against the Islamic Republic? And you'll know where they stand. There are no in between. And that is what this campaign is doing. It's a very black and white message. We don't want the campaign. But for those of us who have been giving a voice to this, whether as journalists or the opposition or people who support this campaign, we have to be thinking about the next steps. And the future can hold many, many, many different options, right? But we have to ask ourselves, okay, no to the Islamic Republic, but yes to what? And that is where, for 42 years, there has been a challenge to unite, to organize, to understand the real definition of what we want. We know specifically what the people of Iran want in terms of their freedoms, but what will it look like? How will it look? How will we get there? And I think that these have to be the next conversations. And really, I think when I talk to people in Iran, and every single day there's people messaging me, can you get this message across? Tell the media this, tell the world this. And I try to translate their tweets with a hashtag tweets from Iran. that people love to read the translation of what people really think on the ground in Iran. So this gives me hope. It gives me hope that people actually care what the people of Iran want. How that will translate at the negotiating table in Vienna is a different story, but I think the main point is for us to carry out the message of the people of Iran, what they want, and to really make their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. You actually referred to a very important point related to this campaign, the campaign of No to Islamic Republic. You exactly pointed out that the people of Iran come together regardless what political point of view they have. They are right or they are left. They are socialists or they are liberals. It doesn't matter what the political view they have. The most important thing, the only thing that we want is this regime, this barbaric regime, this apartheid regime, we want this out. We want this out of the country. So, what do you think that we, as ordinary people, can do in order to break this propaganda? Because we don't have a media. We don't have a platform like a well-known platform that everyone can sit and listen to us. We have Twitter, we have these spaces, we have a Clubhouse, we have this kind of medias. And because of the propaganda, because of the financial situation, the funds that the regime feeding into this machine, they silence us. So my question is that what do you think we can do with our limited tools in order to break this propaganda? And I also see that Beta is joining us. If also Beta has any comments, I would be happy to hear. So first Lisa and then Beta John. Thank you.
It's a great question, and I think this is something I get asked very often. What can we do? What can we do? And there's in the advent of social media, I think a journalism degree is obsolete. Anybody who has a Twitter account or a Facebook account, Instagram, you're on Clubhouse. There's so many platforms right now. They are all important, and each person is important and can be an advocate unto themselves. This is how these things happen. I mean, you don't need thousands of followers in order to make your point. You don't need, a blue check next to your name in order to make a point. And I think that that's really the beauty of social media. Remember, in 2009, it was the Iranian people themselves who became citizen journalists to tell the world their story. We need to continue that trend. We need to hear from the people in Iran. We need to have and find and really nurture relationships with the Western media so that they can give a platform to these voices. That's 100%. But we do need the human stories to come out of Iran first. I've asked a lot of people to send me their views on varying topics, whether it's about the nuclear deal, or last week I asked the people in Iran to write me on Twitter about what they believe or how they view the leak between Kerry and Zarif. And it's wonderful to hear. I mean, I got so many responses, and it just shows me that people in Iran are very hungry and eager to have their voices heard. Among the opposition, it's the same thing. I just tweeted, for example, about the billboard in Times Square. Start retweeting, start posting about it. Even if you have, a few followers, maybe your friends can understand what you're talking about. Every single person that you educate is one more soldier, is one more advocate against this fight. You have to look at the other side. If our leaders at the negotiating table in Vienna did not learn the Iranian regime's way of negotiation, which they haven't, and maybe they don't want to, at the very least, perhaps we, as the opposition or the journalists that are giving a voice to the opposition, can learn from the propaganda machine coming out of the regime. And that's groups like NIAC and individuals who are doing such a great job. You have to compliment them on really getting their message across. What are they doing? They don't consider themselves small. They've grown tremendously. They started out as nothing. They've grown tremendously. So they've infiltrated Washington, they've infiltrated Hollywood, they've infiltrated think tanks and media and the mainstream media and social media platforms, and they want to silence us all. They want to silence us all. And we don't play dirty, we don't play like they do, but at least we can learn from them in terms of getting our stories heard. And I'll give you an example. A few months ago, NPR had a slideshow on the pictures coming out of Iran of people suffering under US sanctions. And that was the title. Uh, it's it's incredible, right? So I tweeted this and I said, wait a minute, where is NPR's slideshow on the 42 years of people suffering in Iran? Where are those pictures? Obviously, NPR is trying to make a point, and that point is that we have to remove US sanctions. Why do we have to remove US sanctions? Because we have to appease the regime. Why do we have to appease the regime? Because that's the way that the Biden administration wants to move forward, just like the Obama administration. There's nothing, no calculation on human rights, no calculation about the people of Iran, and we have that in our hands. The Democrats in this country always pride themselves on defending the underdog, defending the minorities, defending gays, defending people of color, defending women. And where are they? Where are they? Why is it that now the Republicans are the ones that are defending human rights in Iran? We can only go to Fox News or the New York Post or The Hill or Free Beacon or the Foreign Desk to cover the stories about people suffering in Iran. When you see a journalist being thrown into jail because of their Facebook post, you can only trust the Republicans to tell that story. We need to exploit this, and we have to do it through stories, real stories of people in Iran that are suffering under this regime. That's the best way to tell the story. And every single person who cares enough is their own journalist and has their own platform, no matter how small. They are all significant. And I encourage you all to use your platforms to get these messages across. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I have to interrupt you, Sarah. What you said brings us to the next topic, because we are also running out of time. In 12 minutes, we are going to have the QA section, and I'm sure a lot of people here have questions to ask from you. But this brings us to the next topic. One of the tools that Islamic Republic or NIAC or I don't know, other part of the government they exploit is infiltrating into social media such as Reddit, Facebook, or Twitter. For example, I was not familiar with how they are running operation on Reddit or on Facebook. I went on Reddit, I made a post, then suddenly I saw like 20 people, 30 people on the Iran's subreddit. They started attacking me. They called me mech. They called me fake. They told me you're a liar. You are, distorting the reality. And I was shocked. How are these people defending the Islamic Republic? And they speak very good English. It was when I went on Google, I started researching. I found out it was, I guess, around 2016. Facebook suspended thousands of accounts. I don't remember the name of the incident or operation they ran, but it was like they were using people's picture, or using those pictures, they created fake profiles like Americans, Germans, I don't know, whatever. They were using those accounts to spread fake information, to distort the reality of Iran. How do you think we can counter that? Because, they have a lot of trolls, they have the money, they have the organization, but we are all individuals. We are not, we are just a few people who would like to, oppose their propaganda. What do you think we can do to oppose such a big operation that the government of Iran running?
Thank you, Mamadou, for the next point. I would like to give the microphone to Bita. She's been waiting here for a long time. And I also want to welcome Dr. Mitra Babak. And I want to invite her into the speakers. Please go ahead, Bita.
Hello, everyone. I'm gonna go with the point that Lisa made, that we have to give them the we have to applaud them because they did a good job in their way. So we have to learn from them, I think. And about the point that Mandu said, that they are using their voices on Reddit and other English platforms to perform as the arms of the propaganda, and we can learn from them. There are like millions of Iranians outside of the country. We know all other languages, and we can use that. We should definitely make a network. We are, yes, we can say everything on our accounts. Yes, we do make changes, but we have to know that making an echo is the important thing in social media. So we have to make a network that any point that we make, it should be and it can be echoed in other social, other platforms and other accounts. This is what I really think we should do to counter the government propaganda.
Thank you for your points. I would like to add a very, very small or maybe a big point here. For example, in social media, in Reddit, in Facebook, on Twitter, or on Instagram, when we ordinary people with even unknown accounts, like me, I have an unknown account. When we, for example, go to a tweet and we want to write something expressing our feelings about that tweet, which is wrong or a propaganda or a total lie, these people either call us warmonger or they call us bot, robots, trolls, and these kind of terms. This is a very huge problem because many of us here in social media, we have to come with an unknown identity or a fake identity even. Because we have a brutal regime that it doesn't matter you are living in Iran or out. In any case, you are in danger. You always feel threatened. This is another thing that I don't know how to deal with it. They either block us completely or they take credit from it and they say to the world that, hey, see, these people that they are commenting against us, they are warmongers. They basically discrediting the truth. How do you think that we can fight against this stuff, or basically say more effective words in order to break this?
Can I add comment, Sarah?
Sure, if it's related. Thank you.
It's all right. I believe they are use all technique in the way of getting through people head by brainwash them. For example, using manipulation or scaring people to do as they've been told. So the regime can continue control the mind of Iranian people, making them believe there's something they are not. Thereby using the social media to portray themselves to seem as they are the victim and the people of Iran in the problem. This is the reason why they like to keep us silent so they don't get the stop in their corruption. But we as the Iranian people, we will never remain quiet as we need a change for the good and better for the future of Iran. I think we want the freedom of speech for the people of Turkey is more opportunity for the youngest of Iran and freedom of religion. And a quick question from the Lisa.
Mr. Tehrani, I cannot hear you.
While Mr. Tehrani is trying to get back, I would like to point something on Sarah's note. You know, labeling and name calling is not something new, and we know that it's not real, it's not true, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We call them like apologists, they call us like fake. It doesn't matter. The important thing that we have to focus on is the real issue and the real job that we have to do. They can call us anything. They can call us fake. They can call us mech. It doesn't matter.
I definitely agree with you. But the point is, I just want to try to say, because as you know, I just want to try to ask you something about your opinion. Do you think the media based in the UK are found the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran? Do you think play a big role helping for Republic of Iran, or what the motive? Are they really with the people of Iran? And I just want to think myself as well. And otherwise, how can we know for the certain of journalists here are not corruption organization working alongside with the Iranian regime? I just want to know your opinion, if you don't mind. Thank you. I'm just listening.
Thank you, Mr. Tehrani. Dr. Mitra Babak is here with us as a speaker. I would like to give microphone to her that she can put comments for us. And I also would like ask anyone to if you have any question, you can raise your hand and request for microphone, come up and ask your question related to the topic, please. Thank you. Mrs. Babak, please.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm so tired because I went in hours and hours. I was in Clubhouse, and it was amazing. It was about the atheists and religious people, and the debate was amazing. And I wish all of you were there as well. Regarding, I just came in your room, and I'm not aware very well how much what exactly you're talking about, but the things I just heard, it was about the propaganda and also fake IDs. I myself been threatened by Hezbollah, Taliban, Daesh. I always use my own name. And I think, especially us as if we are outside Iran and we are living for years, I think this is very important. And instead of being scared of them, we use our own names because as much as we are more and more people, they can't arrest us, they can't chase us, they can't abuse us, and that's a solidarity of the freedom, solidarity of being brave, and we are not scared of you. You are trying for 43 years to make people to be scared of you, but here we are now. At least we are outside Iran. Why should we be scared of them? So that is one of the solution. I think we all become very brave and use our own name, our own pictures, and say, hey, 43 years, you're not welcome anymore. We are not scared of you anymore. We are here, all of us. We are together, all of us. I just make it, sorry, it's just little short speech. So hopefully I'm going to come back to you, but because people from other rooms are inviting me as well, maybe I'm going and coming back, but definitely I'm going to be more with you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Babak, joining us. I hope that you come back again. So I see Mr. Walton in the speaker, and I would like to give the microphone to Mr. Walton if he has any comments or ideas about the propaganda, these tools that they use. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Darood, everyone. I'm not used to this application. It's my first time, so there's not enough time in a 1-hour meeting to discuss everything we need to discuss. So I am inviting Lisa Daftari to telephone me or get in touch with me, and we will review what was discussed today, and I will give her some input to share with you. I've already given it to Sirwan Mansouri. And for those of you who don't know me, I've been working with Iranian refugees since 2009, among other things. I've been blocked by NIAC and most of their affiliates since 2010, and I've been trying to shut them down with U.S. authorities since 2009. For the people in Iran, I do have a message that you need to share with the people in Iran, especially anyone that's leaving the country. Turkey is no longer safe. You could take a chance in Iraqi Kurdistan, but your chances of getting accepted to the U.S. are near zero from there. Your best bet if you're leaving the country is to try to get to the European Union. Do not go to India or Pakistan or Indonesia. You will stay there forever. And those are some of the things I want to discuss with Lisa that she can pass on to the Iranian people. We're not sure what the refugee status for the U.S. is right now because of the flood of immigrants at our southern border. It seems like everything is up in the air in Washington, and Biden sure as hell doesn't know what he's doing. I am right now trying to get information from USRAP, United Nations, and the U.S. State Department on the admission of Iranian refugees. And I will share that with Lisa when I get that information. And again, I know it's late, so I don't want to take up a bunch of time, but I would love to do this meeting every Saturday for the next 2 months and really get down to the nitty gritty of how we can help Iran and Iranian people. It's all Iranian people, the Baloch, the Avazis, the Kurds, Bazaris, Azaris, Turkoman. We need to come together. The regime is divided the people in your country for 40 years. The people in your country, I know for a fact, I've dealt with over 2,700 refugees. That's how many refugee files I have from everywhere in Iran, and some from Iraqi prisons. And the one thing is that I've found is the Avazis don't talk to the Kurds don't talk to the Baluch, the Persians don't want to talk to the Kurds, the Persians don't want to talk to the Avazis. The people are willing to talk. We need to bring them together, and we need to reinforce the trust. As far as communicating with the U.S., for the Iranians, nationals that are here from Iran, I want to tell you, if you have questions, you can address them to myself or to Lisa Daftari. I would not write to the Iran section at U.S. State Department because NIAC has that infiltrated, along with a lot of the human rights groups in the UK and the U.S., ones you would never suspect. And I'm going, if Lisa gives me the time, I'm going to share that information with her. She can do her own research if she wants, but I've been doing it for 11 years, and I'm telling you, you need to find someone in the U.S. you can trust, and it's not our State Department at this point, and it's not human rights groups in the U.S. There is one foundation in the United States that I trust, and that's the Nowruz Foundation. Other than that, I would be careful about talking with any human rights groups in the United States, including the Iranian American Bar Association, who has been tied to NIAC for more than 11 years. And with that, I'm going to give the mic back to you guys, and I would love to do this again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin, for the information you have shared and for your time. We actually appreciate it if you could participate in our future sessions. And again, thank you all the guests. But we are running out of time. Actually, we have already covered 3 topics of the 4 topics we had to discuss. The last one, I guess it deserves its own session, creating fake oppositions and spreading disinformation about the true dissidents and the opposition in order to make the Iranian people suspicious of them. We are going to discuss that in another session, but right now we are in the Q&A window. So I would like to ask the audience, the people who are listening, if they have any questions they want to ask our guests, we would like to invite
a lot of people, like researchers, like academicians, like universities professors, especially in the US and in the Canada, like Mr. John Kazvinian or Hossein Mousavian. Actually, my question is that how is possible that a person like Hossein Mousavian, who was involved in the Mykonos crime during the 90s, he can have the visa for United States and became, as in the cover of the researcher, become a very, very important person in the propaganda machine for the regime. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, it goes across the board. I mean, why are there members of NIAC now working in the cabinet? Why are they in the White House? Why did Trita Parsi have access to President Obama every 26 days, as is archived in the White House records? All great questions. And I think, the best answer I can offer is, the same reason why we had Chinese spies here in our universities and interning. And it's twofold. It's that the Americans have their guards down at all times. I'm almost afraid to use the word naive, but I think that that's the best word for it. Americans overall are naive, particularly the ones in academia. They work in a world in which they define diplomacy. Therefore, they see the world through that lens, and they believe that everybody operates through that same lens. They don't understand the crookedness of the Iranian regime or the Chinese regime or the North Korean regime. They understand everything through textbook, through diplomacy, through the definitions that they give themselves in the universities. They make themselves feel good at those universities, and they stay in that realm of thought and thinking. They don't think to themselves, let me vet this individual. Let me look at who this individual is. Maybe they have an underhanded agenda. And the same thing goes for that. That's the reason why NIAC has been so successful. Under the umbrella of these cultural programs, under the umbrella of we're the Iranian lobby, we want to advocate for the people of Iran. No war. I mean, that's their favorite. No war. If you say anything against them, it's that you want war. All of a sudden, you want war. And it couldn't be any more opposite, where the opposition in Iran is against the regime, and that's because they don't want war. They don't want to live in tyranny. They don't want to live in fear. They don't want to live without freedom, and that's exactly how they're living. That's the best answer I can offer you. And if I want to take it one step further to say, how do we combat this? It's only to correct the narrative with the correct story, with the correct narrative, and keep doing it over and over again. What I have found, and I learned this very early on. I was an intern at NBC News, and I remember, one of the most executive people at the time. I don't remember what story it was in the Middle East. Perhaps it was a fight between Israel and the Palestinians. Came to me and said, "Wait, Lisa, I need your help. What's the difference between Shiite and Sunni? Is it the same thing?" And this is a very senior official, and of course, not a journalist is not an expert in any field, unless nowadays we find that journalists are much more specialized. But for the most part, these journalists are just messengers. So they take everything at face value and what's offered to them. So groups like NIAC, and I have to add the MEK as well, groups like NIAC and the MEK are able to offer a nice PR package and say, listen, you want to know about Iran? You don't know anything about Iran. I'll tell you everything about Iran. It's very basic. We want the Iran deal because it will normalize relations. People in Iran don't want to be marginalized. They want to join the world economy, and they tell such a beautiful story. But we are the ones who have the real beautiful story, the real narrative, and we're not doing the same thing. We need to learn from them. We need to combat that narrative, and we need to begin at the the lowest levels of this. I understand that they've gone very far with their agenda. They've done extremely well. They've put people, these Trojan horses, they've put them in comedy and in Hollywood and in universities. And it's going to be very hard to overturn every single one of these, to combat every single one of these individuals and their spheres of influence. But at the same time, we have to start somewhere. And I encourage you to educate people. If they're naive, let's educate them. Let's tell them our story. Let's tell them in the same way. Let's tell them the story of the Iranian people. And let's try to reverse this script as soon as possible. Thank you.
So true, Lisa. In order to correct a narrative, we have to repeat the correct story, basically correct a false story over and over again. We have to repeat it over and over again. It is frustrating, it is tiresome, but if we want to free Iran, we have to do this. We have to go through this very exhausting procedure. And I would like to thank you from Mr. Martin for the points. Actually, he mentioned about that how NIAC blocked his efforts. So NIAC is a big part of the propaganda machine of the regime in Iran. And I would like to allocate one session of our spaces to the situation, basically the horrible situation of the Iranian refugees and probably all other refugees who is stuck in Turkey, who is stuck in Greece. And we will talk about the situation, the horrible situation they have. And I would like to right here invite Mr. Martin to that session if he would like to join us. So if any other person who might ask a question, okay, I see Mr. Sirwan Mansouri would like to speak. Please.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, please, Mr. Salman.
Yeah, I want to move to audience, but before that, I have to I'd like to say thank you, Lisa. That was very nice to hear you here. And also, Ghazaljan, we are with you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, Salman.
Okay?
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sirwan Mansouri, please go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. First of all, let me thanks for giving us this very grateful information and updating us about the latest information on Islamic Republic of Iran's propaganda abroad. I wanted to ask the question someone expressed, but let me to shift to another question. To my friend, dear Walton and Dr. Mitra Babak, please respond to me. As you know, one of the Iranian regime's propaganda are those journalists who writes for famous newspapers inside the United States, as Washington Post, New York Times, and other newspapers. Okay, they express the Iranian regime opinions in their writings, and they are Iran-backed agents, as you know. What's the mechanism to sue them legally on the courts inside the United States? Legally, I mean, if there is any mechanism to sue them on the courts inside the United States. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure you can sue the press in the United States unless it's for defamation of character. Those cases have won. Lisa might be more familiar with that. I'm familiar with the case that you're speaking of, and he's under FBI surveillance at the time. I'm not sure if they arrested him or not, but he's a person non grata in the United States right now.
Because I guess, Sarah, we spoke a lot. Again, I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions. We would like to pass them the mic so they could ask the questions from our guest directly. You could
yes.
raise your hand as a sign.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you could also like have a request to become the speaker, but then please, once you ask your question and get your answer, please go back to be a listener so we can move on to the next person and the next question. Thank you.
So is there anyone, Ardashi?
Yes, I added Mr. Bajari, if I'm pronouncing that right. Please ask your question.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I wish a good night for all, and I have a question for Ms. Naftari. I follow you and your program for Indas, and I really like it. And I want to ask, what is Iranian opposition doing for the Kurds in Iran to get their national rights? Because, like every day we can say like Iranian regime, Iran states, they are prohibit their national rights to get their national rights, and they're under pressure. Even they cannot speak their own language, national language, Kurdish language. But Iranian opposition, every time they are talking about freedom of speech, freedom of media, but not time like I see they are talking about Kurdish rights, their national rights. What's your opinion on Kurds? Thank you.
That's a great question. I think that this is the plight of the Kurds has been something that has been overlooked for many, many, many years. I think the Kurds had their moment in history when they were helping on the ground in Syria, for example, that gave them much more visible platform throughout the world. But I'll tell you, the opposition, the Iranian opposition, is so splintered, so divided. And I'll give you an example. Right now, I posted about the billboard that went up in New York City, and I have a woman who's going crazy. She's been following me for years, and she said, I just unfollowed you. Why? Because she is so pro-Pahlavi that she's upset that I gave a platform to the opposition that put up this billboard that is not Pahlavi. It's just, random people throughout the United States that probably want a secular democratic government in Iran. She's upset that this is not a Pahlavi initiative, and that I am covering it, or I'm giving it some airtime. This is the problem. The problem is that there is no unity for the opposition in Iran, and we can't expect them to have, there's the Christians, there's the Assyrians, there's the Baha'is, there's, of course, the Kurds and the Baluchis, and so many different ethnic, cultural, religious minorities that need their own platform, and that is absolutely true. But look, the women in Iran, they need their own platform. The dancers, the journalists, the homosexuals. I mean, there's so many, and the good news for the Kurds, I should say, is that they have so many new international friends. One of the most beautiful relationships that I have seen is the advocacy of Kurdish people by the state of Israel. We've never seen that before. In fact, the entire Abraham Accords is something that is so beautiful for the future of the Middle East. And I hope that, I don't know if you've heard of the Cyrus Accords. It's an initiative put forward by Victoria Coates and Len Khodorkovsky. Both of them worked under the Trump administration and are very, very experienced statesmen who put forward the idea that if we had the Abraham Accords that are proven to be so successful in the Middle East, changing the course of the Middle East entirely, to have Israel and Arab neighbors who we never believed they'd be able to live side by side, let alone have meaningful relationships at this point in tourism and in sharing technology and water irrigation practices and all sorts of things. Now, all of a sudden, they are really overlapping on so many different initiatives. Why not the people of Iran? And that's really the focus. Hello?
Lisa,
I'm
do you
sorry.
hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So the point is that when you look at these changing demographics, it's wonderful to see the people, the Kurdish people, get support by an unthinkable ally. That's where we have to look. That's where we have to look. And that's the point, to look where the unthinkable allies are. And we have to unite for the Kurds, for the Baha'is, for the Christians, for the Jews, for any minority group that needs our support right now. And I think that that's really the message going forward. For 42 years, let's ask ourselves, what has been the challenge? And that's exactly right. We don't know where we unite. We don't know what we want for our future. And for that reason, the NIAC people, the government, they have won. Why? Because their message is clear, it's straight, and they're united in their message. And we have to learn from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. There's one question specifically I would like to ask from you because no one has come up with that question. And I believe it's an important question. Do you believe propaganda relates to a nation's culture in any way? Let me clarify. For example, some nations could be more resilient to propaganda. The others could be deceived more easily. Thank you.
Yes, and for I think if you're referring to the American or the mainstream media, that is more it's easier to penetrate with propaganda. I addressed that in the previous question, and I can expand upon that. The American media and American people in general, and look at this past election we had, was based on so many fears and lies, and regardless of where you are in the political spectrum, this is not a plug for either side. My point is that the American people deserve better, and they were getting just propaganda on both sides, pure propaganda. And it's what's interesting, and the dichotomy here is that we have so much more information at our fingertips. We have Google, we have archives, we have ways of researching so quickly. Everybody has a smartphone in their hands, and yet we are so deceived. Maybe it's because we have all that information and people are able to pass along those two. And again, this is what we need to exploit. This situation is what we need to be clarified and to be exploited, to say, if you care about human rights, then you should care about the people of Iran, and therefore you should say no to the Iran deal. You should say no to negotiating with terrorists, which are the Iranian regime. And really, and it's pure propaganda. So anytime you can talk to someone about this, anytime you can post about this, it's, again, I'll go back to my initial point. It's not just one, it's many. It's educating people, and I think that that's where we need to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa,
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Okay.
For the great response. Yeah, sorry, Sarah. Let Ehsan ask his question, then you could go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Do you have me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, it's really nice, and thank you so much for the time you gave me. Thank you so much, Miss Lisa, for all those things you're talking about. And I just have a big question here that is not just my question, it's question of most of the people. Look, I would say a normal Twitter user, and I just live in abroad, so I don't have any problem with just being abroad with this, involved with so many things in Iran. But the problem is this, that you see that every day we see such a propaganda like Negar Mortazavi, Fasihis, and so on and so forth. They are just coming up. They are showing up themselves on the media. You also have a media. What is the plan? Look, right now what we are talking is just the words. Okay, these are the theories. We should be united. We should do that. We should do that. We should do that. But what is a practical plan here? You have a media which is powerful. How you are going to organize this? Look, you just made a space here, and we are just enjoying this because we're talking, we share our ideas. But what is the point of the practical view? What we are going to do? Do we have any, just a plan to move this step from the books, from the words, from just speaking to a walking way? And if there is one, how we can unite that? That's just a big question for me. Maybe you can just find an answer for me. It would be so grateful.
Okay, I would like to make my points here. Well, the reason that we started these English spaces is, first of all, to basically step forward in order to do some act, to take some acts. So I think this is the first step. And don't forget, the regime in Iran dedicated a huge fund for the propaganda machine in different forms, like for example infiltrating into different organization, or even creating different lobby organization. So we don't have that power. So we cannot really go and silence Negar Mortazavi or Farnaz Fasihi, but we can use our limited budget, maybe, or we can use our own platform like Spaces to raise our voices more and more. If you look at this space, you can see maybe around 100 people joined us just tonight. Maybe in the next sessions, we will have even more guests, more people attending us. And the more you repeat the correct narrative, the more people hear you. And this is only the social media. If you're living abroad, if you're living in democratic countries, you can create your own network, like your friends around you, your maybe families, the foreigner families around you, and talk to them. The more you talk, the more you express your feeling, the more you give them the proper information, the more this information will spread. So that was my point. I think this is the best we can do, or maybe we can even do even better.
Thank you so much. That is nice. I do agree with the point you mentioned here. And yeah, that's just the thing I'm doing right now. I'm just a physician. I'm just a student. I just talk to lots of my colleagues, and we are just every day, we have just the same conversation that how is it going? But this step needs to just, I would to say, not like a jumping. We need to have I would to say, a better plan that will help us to define this more and more. Someone like you, that you maybe have a bigger or maybe more influenced plan, like a more influenced people, those people who they have a power of the speech or resources. Maybe if you would be able to invite these people, and also even look, I would to say that look at the Nayak, look at the Negars, and so on and so forth. You see, they are not just 1, 2, 3, 4. There are millions, unfortunately. As much as many people we are here that we are talking about this, 10 or twice of these, not 20s actually, of these people are working for the IR, and they are just propaganda is such a shit for them. But still, we need just more leaders. I mean, those leaders that they are connected. You talk about a network. Let's just make this network bigger, and we have more members of this network. I mean, by making more announcements, having a better direction. I mean, by just having a very influenced tweets in both English and Persian, with more documents, with more evidences, so that we will be able to somehow, persuade people to join us. Unfortunately, what I say is this, that, for example, when I'm talking to my friends, I would to tell them that, hey, why you are not joining this space? Why are not? Oh, it's so hard. Why I should just put myself in it? Just I wanted to insecure myself just to talk about this. But if we have more evidences, I mean, when we do a tweet, it's better that this tweet will be with more strong words, with a more carefully chosen words, then we can do that. I don't want to keep it talking more, because I know that more people are wanting to talk. So thank you so much. The point is this, that let's be stronger. And those people who they have a more connection, those connections who they are more powerful, please, let's try more and harder. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Ehsan.
Thank you.
Just a second.
Sorry, Sarah, I have to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. We are running out of time. It's almost done. There's one more person that has question. You can go ahead, Sarah, and after that, I guess we will wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamadou. Thank you, Ehsan, for your point. Yes, the point of these spaces that we just started is this, to make it wider, to invite more people. If you would like to invite anyone to our spaces for next coming weeks, the next coming months, you're free to do that. We would welcome them. All right, so Mamadou or Ardashir, do we have any other people that they would like to ask the question?
I don't see anyone right now, but then if there is anyone who wants to talk, please either raise your hand or send me a request.
Can I say something very quickly, please?
Sure.
I think it's very important. You know, the interview between Masih Alinejad and Ella Hicks happened, and all the rooms in Clubhouse and Space as well. We had a conversation about this interview, and that was so powerful. I think we are very lucky to have a Clubhouse and a Space, and we can use it as much as we can, and we can talk about this kind of propaganda, and all these people are working with the governments, talking about them. We shouldn't be scared of them. I think as much as we know them, we have to talk openly about them. This is a free speech. And when I remember yesterday in Clubhouse, Ella Hicks, she was there, but we invited so many times. Unfortunately, she didn't come up to the stage. But I think we have so much power now, and we can use this power. And as much, for 42, 43 years, they try to scared off us of themselves. And now this is a time for us to show our power and talk about them very, very openly. And if it's possible, if it's legal, because it's a free speech, we are living in free countries. And if it's possible, we invite them and we talk about them with their own names. So what do you think about this suggestion?
Thank you, Mrs. Babak. Okay, we have two more speakers here, Iranian women and green power. Which one of you would like to speak first?
Yeah, green power can go first. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question from Lisa. My question is not related to subject or title. Can I ask it anyway?
We prefer to stay on the topic, but if it is short, okay, go ahead.
Lisa, Iranian people think that Prince Reza Pahlavi should take the lead in the protest, and they want this leadership to be straightforward. Why do you think the prince is avoiding this?
I don't know if he's avoiding it, but I know that he's being very careful, and I don't blame him. We all have to put ourselves in their shoes, in the Pahlavi family shoes. What happened to their family was not easy. I wouldn't even look, I always think about it and I say, if a country had done that to my family, I wouldn't be eager to come back and help them out again. I wouldn't, because they were betrayed. They were kicked out, and it was very difficult for them to get back on their feet and to become who they are. And Pahlavi's wife is extremely, Yasmin, she's extremely vocal about Iranian refugees. She's made trips to Greece. She's helping them in all kinds of ways. She even has a foundation. I was able to interview her. If you'd like to see it, it's pinned to my Twitter page. She's incredibly helpful and very, very much a vocal advocate of human rights in Iran. And Reza himself, he chimes in to provide vocal support. I think, if you're asking me as Lisa, the individual, I will tell you that to me, it appears that he's waiting to get more of a direction from the people inside Iran.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so that's my short answer.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, like I said, we try to stay on the topic, and if you like, we can open another session with this topic, green power. Thank you so much for your question. Let's move on to the other one, to the other account, Iranian women. You can ask your question.
Sorry, may I interrupt? the other account, it was not an appropriate introduction. I'm sorry. She's Dr. Ruzbe, and I would like to ask her to introduce herself.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, I am Ruzbe from the Iranian Women Organization, and I'm grateful to be here in front of you, the Iranian people inside Iran as well as abroad. My question is this morning, actually, and I think Sirwan was there too, we attended a space because of the May Day and or the laborers basically in Iran. And it was interesting that some of the laborers in some of the cities in Iran, they went for demonstration or mutalebegari in Persian, to request their rights for various items. And when they went for demonstration, for example, the labor forces who were demonstrating in Tabriz, they didn't know about demonstration in other locations or in other cities. Okay, for example, one person which was from Iran, and actually I think we had about 70 or 80 people from inside Iran. So they didn't know that there was a demonstration, for example, in Kashan, they said, and then another person said in Qazvin. How can we connect the dot between these people who are demonstrating for these occasions and how we can put this one in front of the entire world that actually there are demonstrations in various locations and show the entire world that actually the people are requesting their rights and their freedom and, for example, their benefits and wages. Uh, how can we do that? I mean, I didn't know because when they start saying all of these cities, as I said, when Sirwan opened this room, a lot of people showed up and they were from various sides of the country because they were saying, oh, this morning we had this demonstration or this, for example, gathering in Tabriz. Somebody else said in another city. So we realized it when we were in this space. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known that there are these various demonstrations across the country, although small, but it was ongoing. So how can we help them to basically, show this picture to the entire world that there are people who are requesting their wages, their salaries, their freedom, separation of religious from government, etc., secularism, etc. Thank you so much for listening. But this was my question. Maybe Lisa or one of you can respond to this question that I had, and actually it created in my mind. Plus, there was a 19-year-old kid who was a laborer, and he came, and to be honest with you, he opened up. So, I was just devastated after hearing what his dream was. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. Is there any person like Lisa or Mrs. Bobak would like to answer this question? And afterward, we are going to close this session and we will notify you for the next session.
Well, first of all, Alisa, I love the way you are responding back. It's so honest, and it's to me. I'm so glad I'm in this room now because of when I'm hearing when you're answering the questions, you are so honest about all the questions. And regarding the lady, it's happening. It's happening. People from Iran, they started, and we know Iranian people in Iran, they can't take it anymore. Doesn't matter how much oppositions. Some of them, they are, how they are acting after 43 years, but still they are trying to not think about Iranian people inside, and still they are thinking about their own oppositions and their own ideology and whatever they have. So, but Iranian in Iran, they are trying their own best to do something. And of course, with No to Jamhuri Islami, this is a perfect campaign now, which we are giving them power from inside and outside. We are trying to give them power. And I can see by having this kind of media in our hands, like Space and Clubhouse, we are encouraging people more and more. And even some oppositions, they tried in the beginning of this campaign, they start saying, oh, we said already 43 years ago, we said this and that. And personally myself, and I think so many others as well, we are challenging them. We are telling them, how dare you are talking about that? This is something absolutely different. Of course, everybody said, so many people, they said no, plus oppositions. But now this is a time we gather together and show the solidarity. If really, really we want to make the freedom and help the freedom for Iran. So if we are seeing this and there everywhere, in this town, a little bit in this town, a little bit in that town, this is a good news, because as I think personally, by being with different campaign and also different oppositions, because I'm by myself, I never been in any oppositions, any parties, any TVs, and I'm absolutely independent. But working with other TVs and oppositions, just to show them personally, there is a solidarity. If I say about solidarity, I'm practicing. And it doesn't matter if we are not agree, let's agree to disagree. And let's think about the main issue, which is Jamhuri Islami. And thank you, you are mentioning, and thanks to all of you, we are trying. And as much as we have a one voice, as Lisa, she said, how dare it? I think it is much less Lisa Pahlavism talking like that. I think they are coming down a little bit more now, because they were very rigid about that. And now with having Reza Pahlavi saying about the different things and about his own opinion, I think this is a good, perfect time even for them to understand the democracy, respecting the person who is saying and who wants to be, and also we're going to be together, one voice. As much as we try to be one voice together about Jamhuri Islami and the government, I think we're going to see more and more people on the street. All of us, we have responsibility, personal responsibility and professional responsibility. And we have to give this responsibility. Even I give to my own clients. And I try my best. We have to give, as I think, Sir, one of you guys, you said, we have to do it as much as if we try, even 4 people, 5 people, 10 people from all families, friends, back home, here, everywhere. If we try, all of us, I think we're going to have more and more people to be together. And as much as we are together, Iranian people, they're going to have more power and more voice. And we're going to be one voice for the freedom.
Thank you, Ms. Babak. I would like to once again repeat this, that these English spaces targeted foreigners, those who don't speak Persian, those who do not know the truth about the people of Iran. Please invite them. Just ask them to come and ask us, ask questions. We are here to clarify a lot of things to them. We are here to break this propaganda. We are here to communicate to the world directly. We are stronger together. So, Mamadou, I'm gonna give you the microphone to close the session, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, everyone, especially Lisa, especially Dr. Mitra Babak, especially Mr. Martin, and everyone else, and also Ghazal. Thank you for participating in this session. For those who just joined us at the end of the session, this was our first experiment to run an English space focused on the propaganda topic. But hopefully, I was so satisfied with how the session moved forward. Hopefully, we are going to continue this, and we are going to invite more people. And I would like to ask you, please spread the word, because I think this is the first step of something great, because this is something that social media has created for us, some tool to oppose the propaganda of the regime. And we should do our best, those of us who could, especially those of us who are not inside Iran, who are living in the free world, who are living under democracy. Let's be the voice of Iranian people. Thank you very much. And if there's anything anyone wants to add, we would like to hear.
Please, Mr. Mansour, if you would like to add something, we will hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Rabbi. Thank you, Mrs. Sarah. Just want to add something to Mrs. Dr. Rizva's statement. As you know, many are arrested today in the Labor's Day, but among them, I want to inform you about a person in Sandhaj named Sheikh Amani, because so many human rights may be here in this space and want to work on his case. Sheikh Amani from Sandhaj among arrests today in the Labor's Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Mansour.
everyone, and have a good day and night.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.